Yeah, honestly, no, thanks for coming out. And it's really good to see you supporting Agile Northants, and really, this is the lifeblood of Agile groups and things like that. So it's really good for coming out, especially as Beck off as well, and the traffic's being really bad as well. So thank you very much. This is a story. This is a true story that happened to me, and it happened to me as my first week in a new role as a consultant, and I've been brought in to help an organisation to reboot, kickstart their Scrum implementation. So it was basically, Steve, go in, sort them out, make friends, and be nice, basically, but we need to get them working properly. So before we get into it, I just want to talk a little bit about myself. And this is relevant to the talk. This isn't just me blowing my own trumpet, okay, and saying how great I am, but it is. No. So I'm a professional Scrum Trainer with Scrum.org, and we're going to talk about that process actually in this talk. I'm also a certified TOGAF architect, so the Open Group Architecture Framework, Microsoft Certified Solutions Developer through web apps. I'm a former head of technology at Sky, and I was a developer for so many years. Now, see if you can work out the pattern here. I used to work on football websites. So I worked on the mighty Leeds United website. I worked on West Ham. I worked on Southampton. I worked on Sunderland. I worked on Man City. I worked on nearly every site where the team got relegated. So I did work on Arsenal's website, and that was when they did have a dodgy season, and we're going to touch upon that later on. So, but yeah, so it used to be like, please don't let Steve work on our site. We need a good season. But yeah, it was just this pattern. Steve, how do you make these sites get relegated? But yeah, so basically I've got lots of experience, and I quite like doing certifications. You can see on there. The sign for Google down the bottom there was a similar kind of group to this. Actually, it's a few months ago now, and there was two guys from Google. And they were talking about how they start their projects, what they do, and kickstarting. And this. They have this thing that they ask each other before they start a project: do they feel uncomfortably excited about the project? I sniggered like that as well. And if they don't feel uncomfortably excited, they don't do it because the value's not there. They're not, giving something. The value's not there. So I'd just like to share with you now. I'm feeling uncomfortably excited now, talking in front of you guys. So I'd just like to share that with you. So anyway, back to the story. Asked to go in to an organisation. Steve, you're a Scrum. Actually, I wasn't a Scrum Trainer at the time. You're doing your Scrum training path. Can you go in and help these people out because they're really struggling? So, about the first week into the role, I sent out the obligatory email, hi everyone, this is me. So the whole distribution list, which I've omitted from here. So, anyway, hi all. Sorry if it's found its way to you by mistake. I've used the so-and-so distribution list. You may have seen this before, but it's worth rewatching to remember what the main points of the Scrum process are. And if that's a YouTube clip from Jeff Sutherland, a guy dressed up in a rugby top running around an office in Holland and knocking people over and all that kind of stuff. It's well worth a watch. Worth a watch. So, also, whilst you're there, why not have a look at the Scrum Guide? It's available in all sorts of languages, and you can pick up a new language as well. Reading this back so many times I have done now, it is really bad. It's just to go like, actually, I'm not funny in emails at all. So, if you previously read the Scrum Guide, read the Scrum Guide's revision. They've made changes along the way. For example, the team no longer commit to deliver the sprint backlog. Did you know that? Because it's now a forecast. Does anyone know what the most accurate forecast is that we've got in this country? It's the weather forecast. It is the most accurate. And in beginning of January, my wife said, why don't we go to the Lake District May bank holiday, the first May bank holiday, okay? So, if I was predicting or committing to what clothes would I wear, and I would say, well, I'd obviously have to take all my wetproof trousers, wet tops, loads of clothes. Anyway, it was like that, okay? That was me in the Lake District. I can't remember the lake I was in, but also that was what we had. So I was with my kids, walking around here going, this will never ever happen in your lifetime again. This is a bank holiday in May, and we could be in France. Okay, so, and in January, when we were booking the place, I mean, we could have gone camping, it was that warm. When we were booking the place, we said, right, the heating's got to be fine and all this kind of stuff. So we just didn't know what we wanted. But yet, come May, that's what we've got. So this is why it's a forecast rather than a commitment. Because if we were camping, it'd been brilliant. So anyway, yes, back to the email. These are the rules of our engagement, so we should know them. And again, never read your emails back. There'll be a test later on in the week. Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. So this is me just saying, making myself vulnerable. Please come and talk to me. I'm here. I've got some knowledge. Please use me whilst I'm here in a nice way. So the organisation in the department I was in had 40 people in it. So that went to everybody in that thing, so 40 people. I got 2 replies. One was thanks, and the other one was this one. So, my views, not even a hello or thanks for this, it was a 2-footed tackle. My views, is it not extravagantly wasteful and indulgent to hire an entire person and dedicate all their time solely to facilitating the ceremonial meetings dictated by a chosen developed methodology, completely unaffordable for small development shops who are supposed to benefit from? Also, when this person is non-technical, as all Scrum Masters invariably are, now you know why that slide was in the first bit. I am technical, I can do this stuff. They just seem to get in the dev's way during stand-ups. Why do I need a Scrum Master as an intermediary between devs and product owner when the devs can just talk to the product owner directly? Yes, they can. Invariably, Scrum Masters are non-technical. No, they're not. So it's not like they can normally do any useful translations of dev technical lingo into business speak or similar. They usually have no understanding of any technical issues involved. So what is the point of a Scrum Master? If you're hiring good quality devs with half a brain in the first place, then you shouldn't need a Scrum Master to train them in how to select and prioritise their own development tasks from the backlog. If you need to do that, you have bigger issues. You need to, hire better devs. You don't need a Scrum Master. Ideally, you'd be able to send Scrum Masters to meetings instead of devs to free up dev time. However, since Scrum Masters are usually neither business orientated or technical, they aren't generally able to stand in for devs and product owners and free them up from doing other things. Devs and product owners still invariably need to attend meetings. So again, Scrum Masters are pointless. It goes on. Most Scrum Masters' work is basically secretarial in nature, literally running meetings and related administrative tasks. I don't need a Scrum Master for that. I need a secretary. Scrum Masters in the 50s and 60s would have been found in the typing pool. Scrum Masters are overpaid secretaries. As per your article, the aspects of Scrum Master role that aren't secretarial in nature do seem solely about evangelising Scrum and justifying why the host organisation should hire more Scrum Masters. Now, I'm obviously a professional Scrum Trainer with Scrum.org. I'm not an evangelist, I'm an enthusiast about it. Okay, it's different. Back to the email. As an organisation, you should get rid of Scrum Master role because Scrum Masters are essentially useless. Instead, as an organisation, we should aim to hire lead devs with good communication skills who can lead their teams effectively and translate technical discussions into business speak for product owners directly. And this is where they felt sorry for me. I realise I'm playing devil's advocate, and this is mildly controversial view about these points, so please feel free to convince me otherwise. Perhaps I've only ever seen Scrum Masters do the role badly. How does a Scrum Master actually add value? So that was the reply I got. I was like, wow. I was just shell-shocked. Like, what? Okay, how do I respond to that? So, yes, well, there was that positiveness, and that was the thing. There's somebody with a very strong opinion. Let's go have a chat to them. But before I did that, I did the typical Sky thing. I remember as a former head of technology, and sent back an email saying, "Thank you for this. I'm going to give this the time it deserves to answer fully, but I will come back and talk to you about this. I'm not ignoring it." So, and that's what I did. But I just want to have a look at the language that they used. Completely unaffordable for small development shops who are supposed to benefit from them. Get in the dev's way during stand-ups. Scrum Masters as an intermediary. Train them in how to select and prioritise. Ideally, you'll be able to send a Scrum Master to the meetings instead of dev. I don't need a Scrum Master for that. I need a secretary, which, anyway. as an organisation, we should get rid of Scrum Master role because the Scrum Masters are essentially useless. So I felt like that. Literally a week into the role and thought, well, what am I going to do? I will admit, first off, I read this and went, right, I'm going to throttle this person. And then I thought, no, why have they felt this way? And then I felt hurt and felt attacked. What do I do? What do I say? Where do I bury the body? What do I do? How do I respond back to this? A typical holding pattern, put them in there. And then I started thinking, well, why do they feel that way? They, like we just said, they feel strongly. They've got an opinion about it, which is good because I can at least then work with that opinion. What is it that they've seen? What is it that they've witnessed? What is it? Why? You know, there's so many questions. It was, who hurt them? You know, what actually happened to this individual for them to have those opinions? How had this Scrum implementation gone so badly that they'd seen no value in anything that people have been, or the Scrum Masters have been doing, and it benefited them? I had been warned about this individual prior to joining the team. And in the first week or two of them joining the same team, they had put 2 complaints into HR. They were a senior member of the team, and in the sprint review, they had publicly burnt the rest of the team in that sprint review in front of the stakeholders. There was very little trust with the team and this individual. In fact, nobody wanted to work with this individual at all. And people were trying to find projects for them to work on where they would be self-contained and just isolated from it. And I must stress, I do have this individual's permission to use this email. Okay, so I'm not, before I started doing this, I asked, can I use this? Yes, please do. So they were isolated. They were an outcast from the team that they were in. So, questions. Why did they feel like this? What was going through their heads? So, they hadn't witnessed a Scrum Master. They'd witnessed somebody doing Scrum saying that they were doing Scrum Master. So, what should a Scrum Master be doing? So, actually I didn't ask. Who is using Scrum in work? Right, so who's a Scrum Master? Oh, right, okay, so in the Scrum Guide, what's a Scrum Master supposed to do? Shall I help you out? They should ensure that people understand and enact Scrum. That's what it says in the Scrum Guide, but they'd also do loads more other things as well. Helping the product owner work in an empirical way, and also helping the organisation understand Scrum as well. There's other things they do. So that's what the Scrum Guide says they should be doing. And the stuff that we've seen on that email, absolutely nothing correlates with that. So why the picture of the Old English sheepdog? You're probably thinking. It's making you feel nice. It's making you feel calm. It's a dog. Well, there's a metaphor for a Scrum Master, and the metaphor is that they are a sheepdog within the herd, flock. It's a flock, isn't it, with sheep? So, years and years ago, Old English sheepdogs would live with the flock. When they were a puppy, they would eat with the flock. They would sleep with the flock. They would think that they are a sheep within that flock. So the flock would recognise them as one of their own as well. It wouldn't be an outcast. They would be a part of it. So, but then when danger arrives, a wolf or fox or something comes in, the sheepdog stops being part of the sheep, the herd, the flock, and actually goes back to its characteristics of being a dog and protects the rest of the flock. So that's what the metaphor is. Unlike, actually, are there any project managers in here? Where I always say project managers sometimes I've worked with and heard of, but not everybody I've worked with is a project manager. Some of them are really good project managers. A bit of a border collie, where they'll be nipping at the toes and all that kind of stuff, but moving the sheep that way. So, and here's just to prove it, there's a sheep that I saw in the Lake District at the time. I went, actually, yeah, it does look a bit like an Old English sheepdog. There you go. So, we know the characteristics. We know what the Scrum Guide says about what a Scrum Master should be doing. So, if we were advertising for a Scrum Master, what kind of things? And this is like not what you would see on Total Jobs where it's saying must use Jira, must be able to do budgets and things like that. What do we think would appear on here if we were doing a job spec, job vacancy for a Scrum Master? I forgot to say there's audience participation. There's what, sorry? Good communication? Strong facilitation? Yeah. Anything else from anyone else? Nice person, get the teas in, get the coffees in. Personable. Empathy, those kinds of things. Yeah, being able to relate to people. Being able to, yeah. All those, I wish I was written them down. Well, I have. So, lead by example. Demonstrate the Scrum values by example. And the Scrum values are, focus, openness, courage, commitment, and respect. You knew that. You were just all a bit shy. You knew that. So, create an environment of safety to allow the team to fail, but fail safe and fail within their own boundaries. Also facilitate consensus. Show patience. This one I love. Restrain from solving. Reveal, not resolve. Because it's not the role of a Scrum Master to actually solve the problems for the team. They're there to make sure impediments get removed, but not to solve it. I mean, I've got kids, and if they came to me every time they wanted their shoelaces done up, it's easier for me to teach them how to do the shoelaces, do it once, twice, 3 times. There you go. You know how to do this. You just need to go do this now. So, revealing, not resolving. I'll do it a few times, but then now you're on your way to doing it. Be comfortable with failure. Yes. And caring for people, being ethical, being being socially and situationally aware. Showing low tolerance for organisational impediments. That one's my favourite, and that one's my second favourite of that. Reveal, not resolve, and showing organisational tolerance. No, tolerance for organisational impediments. Because we're trying to change an organisation. We're trying to help them understand how to work within Scrum. So, has anyone seen this? This is Barry Overeem, a colleague of mine at scrum.org, and he's written a paper called The 8 Stances of the Scrum Master. Okay, so Barry says, well, he's highlighted 8 anti-patterns. So, Scrum Police, the hero, the scribe, the secretary, the coffee clerk, the chairman, the admin, team boss. That, when you look at certain organisations, that sums up the Scrum Master role for certain organisations. But what they should be looking at is this, the impediment remover, the facilitator. You know, they've got the 3 pillars of empiricism there: transparency, adaptation, and inspection. The coach, the teacher, the mentor, the change agent, the manager, the framework, and the servant leader. I really recommend you read that. If you haven't had a chance to read it, please read it, because it just talks about the different stances that we should be doing as Scrum Masters. And as I went through this journey of becoming a professional Scrum Trainer, there was light bulb moments when, oh no, I've been actually hindering my team by trying to help them, by being the hero. Actually, I would have been better by allowing them to fail and to learn from it, rather than being that hero. I mean, it's great when everybody thinks, oh, you're brilliant, Steve, you know, you've solved everything. Yes, I have, but you as a team haven't grown. You're still reliant on me. So, let's have a look what my friend with the email said. So, also when this person is on technical, they get in the dev's way during the stand-ups. Scrum Master is an intermediary. So, what they were doing there was being a scribe. They were describing where they were writing notes down and then talking to the product owner. Train them how to select and prioritize. Scrum Police. This is how you do it. This is what you need to do. Ideally, be able to spend or send the Scrum Master to meetings instead of a dev. The hero. I can do this. I can solve this for you. You concentrate. I don't need a Scrum Master for I don't need a Scrum Master for that. I need a secretary. So the secretary. That's what they were describing. They were describing the 8, well, definitely 4 of the 8 stances of mechanical Scrum Mastery. And mechanical Scrum Mastery is different from professional Scrum Mastery. Mechanical is when you're just going through the motions and you're doing all this. And an inefficient Scrum Master exhibiting these characteristics really inhibits an organisation's ability to transform into an agile organisation, okay? Because it inhibits the behaviours that we're looking for from our teams.
and also it inhibits the fact that the Scrum Master is a change agent going in and addressing those issues and pointing at them going, there's a damp patch in that corner, we need to fix it, how are we going to fix it? If they're not doing that, the organisation won't change. So my friend had experienced all this, and this is where he was coming from. This is where he felt so passionate about it being wrong thing for the organisation because he'd witnessed that. And he is right on that. That is the wrong thing because we should be doing all the other stuff. So, Scrum Master as a servant leader. Servant leader is mentioned in the Scrum Guide. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to explain what a servant leader is. But servant leader is somebody that puts the needs of others above the needs of their own. They set and lead by the example. They get their satisfaction from seeing others grow. They promote accountability and responsibility within the teams. And they do that by exhibiting the Scrum values, which are openness, courage, commitment, focus, and respect. So, by being open to the vulnerability, making ourselves open to the team to actually say, look, guys, I'm struggling here, I need some help here, it really helps the team bond together. Courage, being actually open to and being courageous to say, look, this is really difficult. Talking to stakeholders and saying, this is problematic, we're not going to be able to do this. Showing that courage to do it. Commitment to the actual sprint, commitment to the process, commitment to actually improving, commitment to being a professional in our industry. Focused on what we're doing. We've got a sprint. We need to keep focused. This is what we said to the product owner that we were going to do. So we're going to have to do this as much as we can. And if there's issues, we will talk about it. But we are focused on it and not get distracted on the next shiny thing. And respect for our peers and our people we're working with as individuals and as diverse people that they are. Each day you come to work, the person you're working with is a different person. They're still the same person, but the moods, their ability has changed since yesterday. So they are a complex person, complex beast. And we work in complex areas, okay? So, with a Scrum Master exhibiting the characteristics of a servant leader, but also exhibiting Scrum values, that's a really powerful person to have on your side within the team, if you've got that. But then if you've got a mechanical Scrum Master not exhibiting this, it's holding the team back, okay? So, what does it feel like when you have that? You've got the mechanics, you've got everything in place, but yet it is so disjointed. It just doesn't feel right. I mean, people that are working in Scrum now, do you feel that you're working like that, or do you feel more like that? You're doing the events, you're doing your daily Scrum, you're doing this, but you're not getting the full value, the full benefits of it. So some are, some aren't. Okay. So at least we know where the areas we need to work on. I'm not perfect. There you go. Look, I'm making myself vulnerable to you. I'm not perfect. I'm a professional Scrum Trainer with Scrum.org, and I'm also a Scrum Master. Teams that I work with will say, Steve, you're not perfect at this, and you're still on the journey. So I'm just, reading up and doing things, and maybe we could do this. And you guys are Scrum Masters. The onus is on you as well to keep doing that as well, because that's how we're going to get better. So, how does it feel when you've got this? It feels like we've got all the right clothes on, but they don't fit. It feels like we're doing stuff, but we're not getting all the benefits. It feels, just doesn't feel right, because we need to look at how we're doing things. Okay? So, when a Scrum Master goes into an organisation and saying it doesn't feel right, there's places that a Scrum Master should spend their time and getting the foundations right, such as the understanding of Scrum. Does the team actually understand Scrum? No. Right, well, let's spend some time going through Scrum then, and let's understand the events and the roles and the responsibilities and who's accountable for them. Once that's done, the team is starting to form. So the Scrum Master won't be spending much time doing that because they've already done it, and they'll start looking at these areas here, get that embedded, and the adjacent processes and the organisational processes, such as how do we get to live? Well, it gets thrown over the wall and sysops or somebody has to put the software live or the product live. Right, well, let's talk to them about bringing closer. How can we get it closer? How can we improve this? So the Scrum Master's role won't be down here, it's going to be up here. And it's going to be talking to the people higher up in the organisation, explaining, do you realise the behaviours that you're doing are actually impeding the team? So can you change those behaviours, or maybe try this way? And that's the role of a Scrum Master. It's not an easy job, but it's a really rewarding job. So, how did I reply to the email? This is the burning question, isn't it? Well, I'm not going to tell you, not just yet. I'm going to talk to you about how I became a Scrum Trainer. So, actually I was talking to David earlier about PSM1. PSM1, you don't have to go on a course for. You can go to, I was going to say rock up, and I just sounded wrong then in my head, even saying rock up. I'm a 45-year-old man. I've never rocked up in my life anywhere. Anyway, you go to scrum.org, rock up to the page, and pay $150 to do the assessment. I had to get 95% or more in that assessment. I took that assessment 7 times on one Saturday night because I kept getting 92%. I was gutted every time. I was like, no! And on my thing, pass. Yes, but I haven't got the right pass. I need 95. Anyway, so 95 on there. You then have submit an application form to scrum.org, and they go through your experience and they talk to you about it and say, yeah, okay, come on. What you now need to do is pass the PSM2. That was just 80%. No, sorry, 85%. That was just a pass. So multiple choice questions. Talk to somebody, more multiple choice questions on there. So just get 85%. Do that. And then I went on the hardest job interview I've had in my life. Train the Trainer. So this is a 3-day course. So 2 days doing Professional Scrum Master, 1 course, okay? Where I'm with other people and I'm being watched with other candidates going through the course. And how I interact with them and how I talk to them and how I answer the question is all being noted down. So, 3rd day is basically we're being filmed, similar to this. So we're given some questions to answer, and then we get critiqued about it. And it was a very, very strenuous and stressful 3 days. Fortunately, I passed. So, PSM3. So you get past that. Okay, PSM3. PSM3 is an essay-based assessment. So 30-odd questions, 35 questions, something like that, where you have to write essays. It's no longer multiple choice. And you have to go into the in-depth, this is what the answer is. This is what Scrum Guide says. Here's some experience. This is what Scrum Guide says. Here's the experience. 35 times, just getting that. And the kicker is, you press submit, and it says, yeah, we'll be back to you later. And you have to wait a week before you can get your answers back, and whether or not you passed or not. I took that twice. Again, you have to get 95% in that. The first time I got 78%. I was like, I got 78%. No, it's not good enough. So in a normal exam, 78% is pretty good. But yeah, and you can only take that and fail it. Sorry, if I was to take that and fail, I'd have to wait another 6 months before I could apply again. So the pressure is on to pass. So all that was done. And then you think, easy street. Peer review by other professional Scrum trainers to be able to then say, yes, you can come in, Tom. You're allowed, And that was an hour interview where they were saying, I'm a student in your class and I'm a project manager. Where's my job? I don't see it. How do you answer that question? You go, well, Scrum says, and you go on. And it's an hour of that. And I passed that one, so I was quite pleased with that. And then I became a professional Scrum Trainer. So, using the experience of this to answer the email, I then went back to doing it. But before we get to the email, I'd like to play a little game with you. Okay? And this is called Scrum Master or Scrum Rookie. Okay? So, remember that symbol earlier on? Feeling uncomfortably excited? That's probably what you're feeling like now, isn't it? That, please don't pick on me. Right, so under one of these chairs, when David very kindly went and got me a cup of tea, I stuck a post-it. So I'd like you to reach underneath the chair. If there's another label on it, please do not rip that label off. So if there is a post-it underneath that chair, you are the lucky person. We have a winner. So, please, you come up here, come up to the front of the class. Don't worry, sir. Don't worry, sir. Yes, you're here to play Scrum Master or Scrum Rookie. Have you brought the family with you today?
Yeah.
Oh, have you travelled far?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's well worth the while coming. Right, so let's have a look at some questions from the PSM1. So, now audience, you can help if you like, okay? So, when is a sprint over? When all the product backlog items meet their definition of done, when the product owner says so, when all the tasks are complete, and when the time box expires. David?
It's D.
It's D. Do we think he's right? He is right. You're on to the next question. Don't worry, we're not doing 30 questions of these. I forgot to answer. Who is on the Scrum team? Is it the Scrum Master, the Product Owner, the Development Team, the Project Manager, or none of the above?
It's the Scrum Master, the Product Owner, the Development Team.
You're right. The time box for a daily Scrum is 15 minutes. 15 minutes for a 4-week sprint. For shorter sprints, it's usually shorter. 4 hours, 2 minutes per person, the same time of day every day.
15 minutes.
Do we think is right? 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Through to the next question. Scrum does not have a role called Project Manager. True or false? True. You're right there. 3 pillars of empiricism, or the 3 pillars of empirical process control are respect for people. The 4th one, inspection, transparency, and adaptation. Do we think is right? Yes, he is, because I mentioned it earlier. So, well done, David, and no one goes home empty-handed. So, from all of us at Scrum Master, Scrum Rookie.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, sorry, lovely. You can sit back down again now and share your chocolates out if you like. But that's the level. Sorry, those are questions from the open assessment on Scrum.org's website. Okay, so you all knew those answers, didn't you? So that was quite good. So I know, so am I. But yeah, so that was the level of PSM1. So I'd encourage you, if you are thinking about doing a certification, have a look at Scrum.org. Honestly, this isn't a sales pitch. It's the quality of the questions that they have are hard. It's not meant to be an easy thing to get, which makes it more valuable to get, if that makes sense, because it does test your true knowledge and true understanding. So, how did I reply? Remember, and I am going to answer this time. Remember, this is what they were used to as a type of Scrum Master. So, the scribe, the secretary, hero, and Scrum police, all within Barry's anti-patterns of a Scrum Master. So, and this is, how I did reply. So, completely unaffordable for a small development shop. I've worked in small development shops where I did the 2 roles, Dev and Scrum Master. This had its pros and cons. You don't get all the benefits. You get some of the benefits, but not all of them. Okay? The role of the Scrum Master isn't to facilitate meetings. Isn't just to facilitate meetings. They also manage the framework, help the PO maximize value, coach the development team in how to be self-organizing, removing impediments, help the wider organization in planning, leading and coaching the organization in Scrum adoption. Change that increases the productivity of the Scrum T, as it seems there. Sorry, that's the Scrum team, is what I should say there. Although, a Yorkshire brew would be quite nice. So, get the T's in. So, act as a servant leader. So, get in the way and devs during the stand-ups, Scrum Master as an intermediary. Scrum Masters are not required to attend the daily Scrums. Did you know that? It's a daily meeting for the dev team. They just need to make sure it happens. So teach them to stick to the boundaries, stick them to the features. Scrum Masters should never be intermediaries between P&O and dev. If they are, then there is a problem within that Scrum team. When the Scrum Master is doing that role, they need to ask why and how can they get these team members talking to each other. And regularly. Daily Scrum, ideal time. Train them in how to select and prioritise their own development tasks from the backlog. Okay. If the team is filled with great developers following the framework, I wouldn't expect the Scrum Master to spend a lot of time coaching them. Remember the triangle. They're going to be elsewhere, so they would be there. The Scrum Master would be looking at other aspects, working with the PO in the wider organisation. So, and again, if developers are meant to be creating value, software, how can they also be removing impediments, which could be behavioural and take longer time to change? As a developer, when you are working, if you're focused on something, you're focusing on the task in hand. They may not be able to remove those impediments. Also, it could also be the Scrum Master with their relationships with the wider organisation, with the PO, to say, look, this is causing an impediment. Please, can you sort this out? Can you have a word? Can you have a quiet word? That kind of stuff, but highlighting it. So change agent. You should never send a Scrum Master as a substitute for the development team. We knew that, yeah? So information sharing and feedback is vital in the success of Scrum, and to send a substitute would get in the way of the feedback. Whereas Scrum Master can add value to ensure that the meeting is required and there isn't an opportunity in the Scrum events, which would enable the same thing. Remember, Scrum Master's role is to remove impediments to the development team. And those impediments could be unnecessary meetings, waste. You know, we're talking about lean, removing those kind of things. Well, we have to do this because, well, do we? No. I don't need a Scrum Master for that. I need a secretary. I don't know how or why he said that, but anyway. Yes, one of the responsibilities of the Scrum Master is to facilitate the events when requested by the team. I can't disagree with that. But the Scrum Master should then coach the team to do the work for themselves, to teach them how to work, how to facilitate, and then off you go. I've shown you, this is me tying my shoelaces, follow my example, live by the values. So, facilitator and coach. Do seem to be solely about evangelizing in Scrum. So, yes. One of the responsibilities is the adoption of Scrum in the wider organisation, like I said. Evangelist versus enthusiastic. So, but as an ex-developer as myself, like I said very early on, I worked on a lot of websites. I worked on Arsenal's website, and in 29th of May 2004, I didn't see my family from the January because I was working at Sky. We went to ITV and said, we can pick that website up and also transfer 500,000 users from your database into our database. We did that. It was easy. What we didn't know was, or I hadn't seen, was that within Arsenal's website, there was handcrafted HTML, which I couldn't easily move into a content management system. We had a bespoke content management system. So I had to keep changing the content management system, also to get the page right, and vice versa. The agreement was we would lift it as it is. So we had to lift it as it was, okay? I nearly killed myself doing it. And that is when I thought, I've either got to leave this industry because I don't want to do this again, ever again, or I've got to find a better way of doing this. So, and that's how I find myself in front of you guys now, as a Scrum evangelist. That is the right word. No, enthusiast. I didn't want to leave the industry. I'd spent 20 years in it. But what I want to do is pass on my experience to other people. So what happened to the person that sent that email? Well, I remember right at the start I said that they were isolated from the team, that the team didn't trust them, they didn't want to work with them, they'd burnt themselves. We started working on our Scrum values and said, right, as a team, this individual is joining us, how do we feel about that? Well, not happy, right, they're coming. We have to prepare. What's our ground rules? Got them involved. Let's look at our Scrum values. How are we going to be? We're going to be respectful. We're going to be open. We're going to talk about things when issues arise. We are not going to do it in the sprint reviews. We are not going to do it behind people's back. We are going to be open. And the first time ever in my life, we did a working agreement, so a team charter, wrote down this is how we rule, how we roll, how we work. I'm rocking up again. And we signed it. Every team member signed it. It's the first time I've ever forced people to sign it. So look, we are doing this. And then in daily scrums, when we had issues, because again, I was there because they were still immature in their process and make sure, even though I was a Scrum Master, didn't have to be at the daily scrum. Guys, are we exhibiting the behaviours we said we were going to do? No. It's like, right, well, we signed it, so why are we doing that? So what happened was we then got that level of trust, level of foundation of trust that we could build on. And the person was brought into the team, and the team gelled, and it was a really good team. We were focused on what we're doing, and we delivered stuff time and time again. Unfortunately, the individual left the organisation because he got a better opportunity. I wasn't in his exit interview because it wasn't my role, but I later found out that he said to feed back to me, thank him for spending the time, for showing me how it should be done, as opposed to the way that I thought it was going to do. And I'm going to take these lessons onto my next organisation because I feel like it's my role, it's my duty to do that. And he was really sad to leave. He just got a really good opportunity. So that was the thing. And I was sad to see him go because I'd seen him go from somebody that was sceptical, somebody that was almost a thorn in the side of the whole thing, shouting and going, it will never work, it's rubbish, to somebody So it's very vocal still, but pushing it forward and seeing how the team could move forward. So, yeah, it's kind of sad. That's my talk. Thank you for listening. If you want to contact me, there's my details. Steve.traps at the Agile Trainer, scrum.org, LinkedIn, Twitter. Please, feel free to contact me. It's been a pleasure talking in front of you, and sorry for all the audience participation, but I do like it.